So when I walked back into the shop later that day, the guy who had served me, but who had turned kind of cold and quite rude when he thought that I wasn't going to return again, he looks up and his demeanour changes. Hey everyone, welcome to another video. We are going to be talking about 5 things that I think designer brands do that make us feel really subordinate, not worthy, a bit embarrassed that we're wasting their time in the first place, and yet we keep going back for more. So I'm going to share these 5 points with you. I would love it, please, if in the comments you could let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is there anything that you think I've forgotten to include in this video? Please leave it below. Before I do that, just a quick mention. One of you left a request last week that I do a video on how I style my spring and summer bags in autumn winter, because the dreaded autumn winter is coming up. It's my worst time of the year. I can't stand the cold and I particularly dread the darkness, but that's a whole other topic. But most of my bags are pinks, blues, greens, yellows, whites, and yet I still get good wear out of them through the autumn winter. And I'm going to share with you how I do that and the colour palette of clothing that I buy now, including actually how you can still wear camel tones, because they're big for autumn and winter, and get away with a lighter coloured bag. But anyway, let's get into this. There are, I think, kind of like 5 things that brands do, luxury brands do, that make you feel inadequate, a little bit subordinate, and possibly like you don't want to waste their time. You know that feeling, even if you know you're going to spend the money, it can be, in some brands more than others, it can be quite daunting to get assistance, to ask for help. And you know, I love luxury brands. I shop from these luxury brands. But don't think that I am excluded from feeling these certain ways. Some brands more than others make me feel quite nervous actually when I need help and I feel like, oh, I don't want to bother anyone, and that's all part of it. If that was Zara, if I walked into Zara and felt that way, I'd never go in again. But luxury, I don't know why, keeps us all going back. So the first thing is queuing. Queuing. You're outside a store, it's raining, it's cold. You've been there 20 minutes already. There are 10 people in front of you and the queue's not moving. Then a couple of VIPs walk past you. They go to the front of the queue. The man on the door knows them. Mwah, mwah, darlings, come in. That little rope fence is pulled back and they walk through. Meanwhile, you're stood there like a fool in the rain. And other people get to skip in ahead of you. The way this normally works, and the way that you normally tend to skip the queue, is if you have an appointment that you've already made, which can be a really good thing actually if you phone up ahead of time. Not everywhere will do it if you don't have a relationship, but if you phone up ahead of time and book to make an appointment and tell them what it is that you want to look at, some places will book that appointment for you, and then it's really good because not only if there's a queue can you skip the line, but it should give you that confidence because you'll know the name of someone that you're there to see. People skipping the line is another way that I think brands can make us feel rubbish. People that skip the line tend to spend a lot of money. When you don't spend a lot of money, you're not skipping the line. You can go and queue in the rain with everyone else. I think as well when it comes to queuing, I get why it's done. Queuing is done because it's not very luxury to walk into a boutique and it be so busy in there that you can't get any service, there's no fitting rooms free, there's stuff everywhere, you're clambering all over other people to go and see what it is you're looking at. That's not luxury at all. So I'm not disputing that queues are a bad thing. And actually I think as well with queues, when you're walking past somewhere, it can make you think, oh, what's going on in there? Am I missing out on something? It's that herd mentality, isn't it? But definitely queues are a way that I feel for a lot of these brands, they build up their hype. Okay, the next thing is to do with sales associates, salespeople. And I want to start by saying that actually for every one salesperson I've met who's been rude and not very nice, I've met 5 to 10 who have been lovely. And I have got salespeople who, I don't know about for them, but for me, I consider them to be friends. And I love, when I'm going past the store, I just love going in and seeing them and chatting with them and seeing how they're doing. Even if there's nothing I want to buy that day, I enjoy going and spending that time with them. But things that can happen to VIPs. You get invited to events. You get flowers on your birthday, let's say. You get little gifts throughout the year. Let's say if it's Easter, Valentine's Day, Christmas. These are all things that top VIP customers can get. If you slip from that top tier, that ends. And I get why it's done, because if someone's not going to go and spend their money, why are you going to give them free stuff? I get it. But the problem I see is that it becomes really obvious, and it can make you feel a bit used sometimes. So what I would say is that this is another way that designer brands can make you feel lesser of a person. And one thing that I personally find tricky is when you don't want to slip from that top tier, not because of freebies, but just because you want to stay in with your salesperson and stay friendly with them. But what happens when season after season, the brand just doesn't come out with anything you want to buy? And then you slip off the list because for a couple of seasons, or maybe even for a year or more, you haven't bought anything. It's not because you don't love the brand anymore. It's just that there's never been anything in there since whenever that you've wanted to buy. It can also happen where you go into a store, you come across somebody who's having a bad day, or maybe that's just them. They're not a very friendly person. They see you, they rightly or wrongly assume how much you're going to spend that day, and they treat you accordingly. So I have had it before in one particular store where I was looking at a handbag and I wasn't happy with the quality of it, so I didn't end up buying it. But before I got up close and personal to it, I was looking at it in the mirror, I was really, really liking it, and the salesperson was being lovely, so nice. And then as soon as I noticed some stuff with it and was like, oh, have you got another one? And they were like, no, we don't. That was when I thought, okay, I don't really want to buy this. And that's when the tone changed and they became very cold, very frosty, and like quite unfriendly. And it was so obvious. And that's the worst thing, when you see that and it's so, so obvious. The next thing is wish lists. How many of you have heard of a wish list? So typically the way things go with designer brands is if you are in there with a salesperson, if you're friends with one or you shop somewhere a lot, they're typically, when there's a new collection coming out, a PDF document will get sent around on WhatsApp, and it means that you can go and see the collection before it launches, and you can put in a wish list, you can place a deposit and have things set aside for you before they even arrive in the store. This can be great if there are popular items coming out that you know are going to sell out. So for example, years ago, you know the heart-shaped bag from Chanel? Years ago, that was a really hard to get item. A lot of those colours sold out before they even landed. And that was because of wish lists, because of VIP customers being offered them before anyone else. Now, I actually got really lucky because I got a heart-shaped bag in the colour that I wanted because of one of you. So one of you, you're my friends. I won't say your name in case you're not cool with that. But we were in Harrods and I wanted that bag. And I think you got it in white, you know, and you said to me, if you want that bag, I've got a really good salesperson. I can hook you up with that bag. And you did. And I was like, oh my God, I totally was not expecting that. And I nearly died. And I still wear and love that bag to this day. But that's an example of where you had to be in there with a salesperson to get what you wanted. So Chanel is an example. They tend to have a couple of sales each year, one in the winter and one in the summer. And the things that go on sale, never bags, so don't feel like you're missing out and that there are bags on sale. What you're looking at is seasonal shoes, seasonal ready-to-wear, and seasonal jewellery items for the most part. And they're normally, can't remember if I mentioned, around 40% off. Again, a lot of those items sell before they even hit the floor because they're offered to VIPs. Point number 4. There's only one left. I don't know. This seems to keep us coming back and this seems to make us buy things. And I think it's the oldest story in the book. I would certainly do it. You know, if I was in sales, I'd probably pull that one as well. Now, I'm not disputing that sometimes there probably is only one left, but I think that a lot of the time there probably isn't. And it's said to make you spend. It's a tactic that makes you in that moment feel a sense of urgency. When there's an offer on, or if there's only one left and you're looking at it and you really like it, that can be the tipping point that you need to make you drop the money. And then point number 6, and this is kind of related to the point about salespeople, and it's to do with Snooty Service. A lot of you tell me about this because I get a lot of you email me, and a lot of you have told me about Snooty Service that you have received. I definitely have. When you walk in somewhere and it's really quite frosty, and then as soon as they think you're going to buy something, it changes very, very rapidly. I'll tell you a little story time. So my watch that I'm wearing, I bought this in 2021, and I'd seen it online and I knew that I was going to get it. I went to have a look at it. It's from Tag. So I went into Tag and had a look at it. And it was dead in the store, and there were only two salespeople working, and they were both fighting for the business from me. I noticed this, and I guess because there was no one in there, commission, I don't know, but they were both up for the sale. And I said, you know, I want this watch, showed them the picture. And they said, oh, we've only got one left. And I thought, oh, here we go. I thought it's going to be like that. Here we go, though. It's fine. It's fine. So I had a look at this watch, and what I wanted to do, David wasn't with me that day, but, you know, it was a lot of money to spend on a watch, and I thought before I drop the money, I would like to get David's opinion, because he's more into watches than I am. So I said to one of the guys who took over the sale, I said, I want to take some pictures and a video and send it to my husband. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. Anyway, I sent it to David, and David was in a meeting, so he didn't even see it. It didn't even get delivered on WhatsApp. And I said to the guy, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to come back later. I want to have a think about it. I want to ask my husband, and I'll come back later. As soon as I said that, he turned so unfriendly, took the watch back, put it back under the counter, and that was it. And I was quite shocked, because actually, you know something, whatever David said, I had every intention of buying the watch, just because when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, it's stunning. I love it. But the response I got to let me have a think about it was so shallow, because I realized that this fake persona of, you know, someone being really friendly and really liking you was not true. It was just a sales thing. And again, I get it, you know, I've worked alongside sales before. I work in marketing. I know how sales works. I get it. But be discreet about it, you know. Anyway, what happened was I spoke to David later that day. I went out for lunch. David was like, the watch is stunning. I was like, I know. So when I walked back into the shop later that day, the guy who had served me, but who had turned kind of cold and quite rude when he thought that I wasn't going to return again, he looks up and his demeanour changes back to the person that he was originally when I first spoke with him. Very friendly, very helpful. Can I get you anything? Take a seat, you know, just buzzing around me. And it just made me feel like I'd seen who this guy really was. I'd seen it and I didn't like it. And as I say, if there was another store closer, I wouldn't have gone back. I'd have gone to the other store and bought it there. And you know something? The watch in the cabinet, get this, the watch in the cabinet had, like, where the strap had been done up, there was a little dent on it. And I said, oh, I don't want that watch because the strap's got a dent on it. And because the watch had been done up big and I need it small, because it's a man's watch, you'd have seen the dent there. And I said to him, can you get me in another one? He was like, no, we've got another one out the back. And as he went to get it, I thought you told me that you only have one in stock. It just made no sense. So this is what I mean about snooty, unfriendly service. And yet, will I go back and buy another Tag watch? Yes. There's already another one that I've seen that I really like. It's the Carrera watch and it's got a pink face and I love it. Will I go back and get that? Probably. Will I go to another store? Yeah, I think I will. But that's what I mean. So what do you think? Do you think these things keep us going back? Are there things here that you've experienced yourself? Are there things you feel like I've forgotten in this video? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Remember to come back on Sunday for that video on how to style spring-summer bags in autumn-winter. That's going to be out on Sunday. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.